Hello and welcome to the Torch Snuffers podcast. I'm your host, Alicia, and with me is my wonderful group of panelists. We have Stephen Lehman.
Hello.
Prince Ty Hewitt.
Good evening.
And the wonderful and wise Billy Garcia from Survivor Cook Islands.
Hello, Survivorverse.
Yay! Hello, Billy. We are so happy to have you, and we are so happy to be back after a Thanksgiving week hiatus. And so, yeah, we were stuffing our faces, unlike the poor Survivor players who are eating rice and coconuts. Although they are getting some pretty sweet rewards lately. But we'll get into those in a moment, because I feel like we want to talk about the most exciting developments of the last couple episodes from tonight, which is shifting alliances, hashtag epic blindsides, not just blindsides, and all of this coming about from the Lauren, Ashley, Ben, and Devin that will now remain nameless until hopefully they come up with a name.
And we have the double agent Ben, who's part of them but not part of them. He's doing an Oscar-winning performance, and yeah, he's on a secret mission.
That's right. He's had so many missions these past few episodes. Mission the idol that came from his wife somehow, even though she's not on Survivor production that I know about. You guys know?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't believe.
But yeah, Ben was so convincing. Like, I'm one of those people where all of the emotions are on my face at all times. So if I tried to do that, I would just be like, and people would look at me and be like, this bitch knows what's going on.
To be fair, all he really had to do was trick Joe. So long as he tricked Joe, and they were at that reward, like I don't know. I mean, he was a pretty convincing actor. I'm not sure that he's as good of an actress as Karen from Palau, but it's close. It's close because he's a good actor, but she's a very good actress. Very good. So to that end, I mean, he nearly got himself voted out because they nearly literally went with the fake plan. So there's that to consider as well. Like, it was almost too good.
We don't really know if they were that near it. They just showed it. They might be nearer to it next week because they do keep alluding to it. But I don't know, Billy, like, how much of, like, when you kind of discuss something strategically, do we think that production sometimes just, like, super focuses in on that because it's, like, the only other, like, alternate plan they have to even present to viewers? Or are they really...
Honestly,
what's up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, honestly, like, I don't know how, like, the production, like, the editing people, like, filter out so much bullcrap that happens, like, in a confessional. In a confessional, like, you literally hear, like, every thought going through someone's head. like an unedited confessional will be like, yeah, me and Ty have this plan, and I don't know what's itching my ass right now, but I can't stand sitting here. And you know what? Ty, I kind of get tired of Ty, but he and I have this plan right now, and we're going to work together. And it's literally like, that's a confessional. Like, every thought that goes through your head. If a fly goes by, it's like the most distracting thing. You're like in the middle of explaining, like, your whole narrative, and then a fly goes by and you're like, and then you lose your train of thought and you start talking about some other crap that has nothing to do about anything.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know how they do it, but they're able to sort it all out and even come up with alternate plans and stuff. And, kudos to them.
Oh yeah.
It's got to be a spaghetti bowl of nonsense, every confessional, like, ever recorded.
I wish they would give us, like, bloopers of just, like, those ridiculous moments where you're, like, yelling because a bee is coming to attack you, or, like, there's a fly, or, like, I don't know, you sneeze, or I don't even know, or, like, you fall. If you're put in one of those, like, weird crouching positions, they sometimes, like, stick people in those awkward rocks, like,
Yeah, we do. We have had a few of them though. If we remember, in one world, we had Kat having to like swat a fly that like came all up in her face, and we had like Jeff Varner being like, "Oh my God, something just bit my ass." Like, we've had some of those fun moments, but no, I agree. It'd be fun to have those blooper reels.
Yeah.
Who's
But Billy, how?
the flying fish?
Greg
was that?
Neal,
Somebody's
back in season 1. Greg, yep.
Right, exactly. Weird shit like that.
Billy, that brings up another question I had. How long typically are your confessionals as you're sitting there? Because of course you really only get like the little sound bite of maybe 10 seconds if you really have something to say.
Yeah, it really does vary in time depending on how involved you are. If you're very involved, you could be there 45 minutes, maybe an hour. If you're not that involved, then they'll try to get the generic soundbite out of you. Today, we are going to play for immunity.
Yeah.
And it is very important because whoever loses goes to tribal council. They'll get that out of you. They're like, all right.
But then like you get clued in, you're like, oh wait, they don't give a shit about me this week. Like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
You would think, but there are some people, like no names mentioned, Rick, who literally give nothing because they're so damn paranoid they don't want to be away from camp. They're like, they'll sit down, yep, and then they go back to camp. They don't want people talking about them while they're gone.
Oh my gosh.
So
Well, it's also like Danny in Guatemala. She didn't want to give any of her stuff away because she thought the producers would help Stephanie. Remember that? Yeah, she. Yeah.
And maybe that's why she kind of, for me, was like a little bit of an out of the blue winner. Who like I appreciate it, but did it totally get, which is not uncommon. But
I know it's kind of taboo to bring this guy up, but because we're on the subject, Mike Scoopin, actually when he played in Philippines, it's telling like production like my ass is on the line. I can't do a confessional right now. I'm about to get voted out. I need to go play. I can't talk to you guys right now. Like he was constantly doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine they're only pulling like one of you at a time, which leaves the rest of camp totally out of, it's just like any time you go get water, any like reward challenge where you're leaving a group of people and things could go down, whether or not they actually do, which, like that.
Yeah, I always preferred my confessionals like early in the morning when people are still waking up and their brain isn't quite working right yet. That's when I prefer my. Of course, that means that, my confessionals are all going to be a bunch of blabber because my brain isn't working right either. But
hey, but then it gets your mind working for when it needs to work, like in the game, which is
that's a nice theory. a lot of it is like, okay, oh shit, I need to piss bad. How long is this gonna take? All right, yes, Sicily. What was the name again? Cecilia. Yeah, she's on her. I don't know. I need to piss.
What a delightful experience all of the cameramen and producers must have with all of these survivors just confessing.
Oh yeah, my favorite is. Do I hear a chicken? This has got to end right now because I think I hear a chicken. Chicken! Everybody, chicken! Go to the chicken!
It's like a mad dash. Oh my gosh. But so clearly we don't see every little thing that goes on in confessionals, and clearly we don't see every little thing that's going on with all of the interactions between the players. And one thing that I was kind of curious about with this, new alliance that Lauren really, really spearheaded was with Lauren, Ben, Ashley, and Devin. We've seen Lauren and Ben be very close, be working together very harmoniously, and kind of be partners. I personally have not really seen Lauren and Devin doing anything, or Lauren and Ashley. So I'm just wondering, like, what is going on behind the scenes where Lauren is tight with either of them that we just aren't seeing? Because she's not just gonna pluck two people out of the blue. She's gonna pick people she's got good relationships with.
Yeah. Oh. Sorry, type.
No, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say real quick on Lauren. I think Lauren is the type of player who establishes relationships first with people and then gets into strategy with them. I think she's the type of player where she has that good rapport with them, so she's able to to make something happen. It's sort of like, we'll jump on this later probably, but you saw in the second half where Chrissy was like, I know we don't really talk, but, and you see her sort of wanting to like start a strategy conversation with Lauren. I think in Lauren's case, she starts with the personal and then it segues into strategy. And, from that perspective, people are going to want to work with someone who they know versus someone who's only coming to them, when they need them.
And I think it was back in the merge. I vaguely recall, in terms of Lauren and Devin working together, that when Devin was going around telling people the plan that they had initially about getting rid of Joe or getting rid of Cole, when that was the initial plan, that he went to Lauren and that those two were having that conversation. And I remember it because I was surprised that Ryan wasn't around, because at that point we were still getting the whole story of Ryan kind of leading Devin along and yada, yada, yada. But I think that was kind of an interesting, in hindsight, segue into Devin playing the game, because all of a sudden you had Devin and Lauren, the two people who you were thinking were just getting dragged along for the ride by various people, talking game with each other while Ryan was too busy being nestled up Chrissy's ass. Like, there it is. Like you blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
But there it was. And then you know that Ashley and Devin were close because they were going to go to rocks for each other because they both hated Joe so much, or at least she hated Joe so much. So, like, there's that connection there. Plus, Ben and Ashley were supposedly in an alliance all the way back when Crazy Alan Ball was still winning me fantasy. Eons ago. So, like, connectors that you forget because of how long. I mean, it's only 39 days for, like, the people, but, like, we've been watching it since September. So, like, there's this long chain where you have to remember and connect all these dots. But if you connect those dots, it isn't the most shocking combination in the world, particularly when you had franchised by Chrissy kind of being an unwitting villain and Ryan being an absolute shit, and to that end, people wanting to avoid him. So here we go. There's my soliloquy on that.
Yeah, I will say, like, clearly Devin and Ben had to feel comfortable enough with one another in order to share the whole Ryan has an idol thing.
Yeah. And
to even just be alone with one another long enough to have this conversation. So yeah, I think what we're seeing with this season is a lot of, like, elongated gameplay that plays out, over a course of days and days and days, really being scrunched into these short sound bites and picture bites, because it's just some of Survivor doesn't translate well to TV, and this is one of those things. And that when you have these long conversations where I could be like, Alicia, you told me that your mother had problems with sleeping pills. Where did you get the sleeping pills from? Oh, I put them there. And then, like, 3 days later, I'll be like, how did you sleep last night? Oh, I slept great. Oh, so you don't need sleeping pills. So it'll be like 3 days later, it plays over a long stretch. And so that sort of thing. I actually did have that conversation with somebody, but I don't want to give away who I had that conversation with. Because their mother
I was going to say, in past podcasts, you've talked about how there's literally nothing to do on the island, so you really just have to come up with the most ridiculous questions that lead to more questions that you would never even talk to, like, your best friend about, because who cares? Except everyone cares because they're desperate for entertainment.
Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody on Survivor where somebody spoke about their parent having passed away, and so somebody else decided they wanted to get on the act and mention that their parent passed away, and I wasn't quite buying it because, oh yeah, like, everybody's parent now, really? So when I started crying about how they passed away and the sleeping pill thing came along, that's kind of how I was trying to get to, are they a truth teller or are they a storyteller? And long story short, that's not something that I did in one conversation. That's something that took place over like 5 or 6 conversations over the course of 3 days.
Right.
So how do you splice that into Survivor? You really don't.
Yeah, very true. You can't, because there's so many other storylines going on, and especially like, you know, like as the season progresses or as it's at the beginning, there's different objectives for like, now we get to know the players, now there's going to be a blind side. Like there's just so little, I don't know, time to delve into all of that. And because of that, we really don't see all the players showcased equally, like was the case with the first boot of tonight's first episode, JP.
Funny thing about that. So Layman is messaging me on Facebook because usually my thing's on a bit of a delay, so if I am in our main big group, I get spoiled. And he says, I think JP might be going. And I'm like, it doesn't make any logical sense for them to get rid of JP. They know Ryan has an idol. They can flush the idol right now. It makes so much more sense for Ryan, who's kind of been a weasel this whole time, to be the one that goes. And then JP talked to Tribal Council, and I'm like, shit. He's right.
That was what I
was
knew.
wrong. I'm doomed. He's doomed. And then he went. Because he spoke. And the moment that he spoke, you knew. And he didn't even do the confessional, but he had, yes. He said,
but he didn't
so he did not have
confessional, right?
He didn't get a confessional, but he talked to Tribal Council. So he said words. And I'm like, whose voice is that? And then I remembered, and I'm like, well, he's dead. And then he was.
So
it was great.
He joins the likes of Rebecca Borman, Leaf from One World, the little person Leaf, and I believe Sunday Berquist as people who got voted out without a confessional in their boot episode. So,
and he got the extra honor or tragedy of not even getting final words.
Like not even like after the end of the episode. Like
no, it was very true. They stayed very true and honoring of his Survivor legacy, which was like silence and just.
Like I think
he did Kelly get final words.
I would like to defend Lee for a second here and say that he did get a lot of attention being called an evil Oompa Loompa.
That's true.
So at least he got some attention.
He did get some content at least, yeah.
Yeah. JP, he was, he played and then he was gone.
He did technically get final words though, because as he was leaving, he was like, "Wow, they got me good." And that like quadrupled his word total for the season. So here we go.
Even Purple Kelly got more content than him, which
he
I love.
Romance episode 1, remember? At least.
And then Ashley randomly, she just left him for. She dropped that when she saw Devin. Oh, another surfer? Yeah.
Devin's got better hair. What can you do?
Yeah, true. And a better personality, at least that we got to see.
And that it exists. Yes.
Yeah.
No offense, JP. I'm sure you're great.
I'm sure your parents love you very much.
I appreciated what JP brought as a character, which is to say, I ironically liked him for his non-edit. So I appreciated him the way
a character.
So I like him the way I like, Purple Kelly or whoever else gets under-edited. So,
He was great for fantasy, I'm sure, Steven.
Oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of fantasy points from him. So
he was a dream.
Ugh.
But so that was JP, and there he was, and then there he wasn't. But the other guy voted out for the second episode was Joe, a very explosive, divisive character on the show, and I was excited to see him go. I appreciated him. Well, I know some of us on the podcast have bad opinions and think differently than me.
I mean, self-interested opinions. He was a slightly better fantasy contributor than JP was in that he spoke words every episode. I could count on him getting at least 2 confessionals an episode, and now he's gone. And now I don't have. I have Ashley left. I'm screwed. I'm done. Joe was obnoxious, but Joe was present every round, and he wasn't. Honestly, I think he kind of gets a little bit of a bad rap just because. Yep. Chrissy's not exactly nice either. Right, exactly.
Okay.
There's and when that started to turn for me was when Mike was just trying to be nice and she was shooting Mike down too. Mike's an adorable little penis. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Right. It just I don't know. I don't think Joe was I think Joe, they have to edit a television show when Joe was a firebrand, and I feel like he probably got a bit of a bad rap too. We did see a little bit of human side when he talked about his family that one random episode, but
that one sentence
Oh yeah,
is
I'm
like
doing this
giving
for my
him
kids.
an excuse. I just found him, obviously we talked about it before, he was a poor man's Tony, and he would have been way more interesting and probably even more like dynamic of a character than he already was on this season if Tony hadn't already come before him and done it better and
why does he have to be poor? Why does he have to be poor?
because he didn't win. So he's a
Well, he's
lesser
not
winner
winning
because he didn't win.
Survivor, so he's not getting rich.
I was going to say, real quick on Joe and Tony, I sort of get the comparison, but I think for me, what I appreciated with Joe was that I felt like there was a lot more of a personality to him. He was as manic and as sort of panicky as Tony, but I felt like we got to see more of him as a person. Like with Tony, we had bits of him, swearing on his badge. Trish.
We had a lot of his badge and a lot of his.
We had his badge, but we had like the most humanizing moment we had of him was like Trish at Final Tribal eviscerating him because I forget he swore on something to her, but with Joe, I felt like he was a very compelling character. So for me, I actually thought Joe was what I was supposed to enjoy with Tony. I really enjoyed Joe, and I'm bummed to see him go, but.
Yeah, with Tony, I think for me, he climaxed at the llama whispering, and then that was it. It was all downhill for me from there for Tony. But with Joe, what I liked about him was there would have been a lot of dead spots in this season that Joe filled in just with pure personality, being a character, being over the top. Like there would have been some really slow moments in a lot of episodes that he wasn't involved. So that's one of the things I loved about him. And then the other thing I loved about him was that he, in Survivor, we get a lot of complainers and whiners about how hard it is. He genuinely had fun the entire time. Get a single complaint out of him, except for maybe to try to rock the boat and, get under somebody's skin like Christy.
Right.
So that's what I like about him, and I think that's his contribution to the game.
At the end of the day, the Tony comparison will be there because he's an alpha male who's loud and strategic. I think Tony's a much better player. I think Joe on the show was a much more genuine person. That being said, I'm not disagreeing with Alicia that his arc found a fitting end now. Yeah. And I feel like now that we're finally going to get some deep strategy. Will they turn on Ben? Will they not turn on Ben? Like, the timing was right. Not that it's about all that, but I'm happy other than the fact that I'm losing fantasy points in Joe's story, and I feel like it was a complete story where he managed to turn it around at least some. He beat JP, thank God, because JP was worthless, and now he's and I'm sorry he was. I mean,
I agree. I think he was definitely entertaining. I do value and appreciate that he was always trying to make things happen without necessarily being in that I'm overplaying kind of pigeonhole that sometimes people get branded as overplaying and it's bad. He was just he was being very extra the whole time.
I think we all agree that there are different styles of play. Like in the early days, it was you had the mastermind, you had the under the radar player, and you had the challenge monster, and you were pretty much pigeonholed into, one of those three or something, or maybe there was a fourth one.
Yeah.
But swing vote players. But we're in an era where it's like mixed martial arts, but mixed survivor strategies. And what Tony's main foundation was that he was chaos. He would create chaos and then catch people as they reacted, as opposed to a pure mastermind that catches you when you're idle. So, when you're a chaos player, you draw a lot of fire, and if you're not like Keanu Reeves in the Matrix that can dodge bullets, at some point you're gonna get hit, you're gonna go down, and that's pretty much what happened with Joe. But that's one of the gameplays, at least the foundation of a gameplay that is extremely entertaining while it's there. And so that's why I appreciate Joe for what it was.
Absolutely.
It is kind of fitting that the episode boots ended up being the calm before the storm. Because you had literally the quietest person in the season, and then you had Joker. And there's your episode title.
That's our episode title. Thank you.
Indeed.
Changing it now.
Yes. Very good.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I am excited now that Joe is gone and JP is gone. I'm sorry, Billy. I know you had a special place in your heart for your Dominican brother, or Dominican hermano, if you will. But I'm excited to see where the season takes us next, because now I feel like things are really gonna get going, and people have decided to suddenly play the game as of like 2 episodes ago, which is very fun to see.
Yeah.
Especially from a season that we came into it thinking, you know, these people kind of seem lame. I don't think they're really like Survivor players, and I just think that we've all been extremely pleasantly surprised and happy to be completely wrong and eating our words.
We had Alan Ball for like 3 episodes. That alone.
Right? It was a gift to us. We deserved that. As like long-time Survivor fans, we deserved him. We did.
I'll say this, I like the group that's left. I feel like there's a lot of diverse personalities that are left. You've got Devin on one side and Christy on the other side. You saw that play out tonight when you had a challenge with a giant word that poor Devin probably would have been able to get Chrissy out, except invulnerable wasn't in his vocabulary. You've got Lauren playing in the middle, who was supposed to be gone early. Like, I don't know. I like the group. I like the group a great deal.
Yeah, I like the group, and I find that there's so many contenders for winner left in this group.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can make a really solid argument for pretty much everyone left, if they make it to the end, barring maybe like 1 or 2 of them. But really, like, it seems as though almost everyone's back has been against the wall at some point. They've made alliances at some point. They've betrayed them at some point. Like, everyone's being strategic. Almost everyone's trying hard at the challenges. The exception, of course, being when Ben, Devin, and Lauren sat out for peanut butter and chocolate, which I thought was going to be a bigger deal than it was. Maybe we'll see the aftermath of that in future episodes, but we really didn't see that fallout today.
Yeah, that peanut butter and chocolate came out a little too soon. They should have put them up there and then tempted them down. Like, I thought it came out way too soon, and because of it, it kind of fell flat. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if I'm okay with, I miss the days where, you know, we did have like the one arm over your head and then probes will bring out temptation after temptation after temptation. Or, you know, a throwback to Guatemala when they had the option where you could have the merge feast or compete in the challenge, something like that. I think having just them bring out peanut butter and chocolate and then be like, okay, you can play or not, like, it's up to you. It's kind of like, plus Jenna and Heidi weren't there, so like it didn't really like have the same effect as it should have, you know.
The season is very much missing the Jenna and Heidi effect. At the end of the day, I do agree with the execution being less severe, because you had like Ryan complain, but Ryan also knew from the get-go that he was going to have to do better in order to win the challenge against, as it turned out, Mike. Whereas if all of a sudden they're out there for like 15 minutes or something or other, and then like you're expecting your big line of defense being Ben, who's fit, and Devin, who's fit, and all of a sudden they jump off for peanut butter and leave me in the lurch, Ryan's going to be much angrier. He's going to have a lot more to say, because all of a sudden, all this stuff that he didn't anticipate happening and had no time whatsoever to plan for has now happened. It makes him more likely to fall over. Maybe Ashley falls over because she's psyched out. Maybe Mike wins the challenge then. Not that it mattered all that much, but, you know, these are the little things. Like, if you're trying to get more tension, having it more of a surprise in that way, like they used to do it, probably would be a little better.
I see. So we think they just didn't take it far enough. Like, they didn't truly commit to the tension causing. They just were like, here's
Hmm.
some peanut butter and chocolate. It's like,
If they had waited one more
Okay.
episode to do that challenge, like let's say JP goes, and then all of a sudden Ben, who really wants to eat, has to decide, well, shit, do I go and eat? Because if I go and eat, I'm blowing my cover. Because why would I feel comfortable right now? I should be going home. There's also that circumstance. You know,
very true.
not everything can work every time.
Yeah, that is also very true. But I don't know. We'll see because it seems like the next episode is going to be a really good one, just based on the little bit of commercial that we saw. So I'm excited. Who has idol still? Ben has the idol, and that's
Ben,
all.
and that's it. Yeah.
Ben's the only
Ben
one.
has the idol, and that's all she wrote.
And a lot of people who want him gone.
I am excited though because we do get loved ones next week, and I'm always a sucker for loved ones. They always make me cry, like without fail. So I'm gonna be sobbing.
Yes, and they're doing a challenge with the loved ones, right? Is that what I heard on the
Yeah, they're pairing up a challenge with the loved
on the
ones.
preview? Which I love that. I can't remember the last time that happened, but it was seriously my favorite thing, and then it never happened again, and I was really
They used to do it a lot. I think one of my favorite iterations was in All Stars. They had a gross food challenge, but the loved ones were the ones who ate the gross food, and so that was always fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun because
There's
as a
Token Cheese coach and his assistant coach.
yes, I think that's the one I'm talking about where I remember because Token Cheese is my favorite season. But yeah, but it's fun because as a Survivor fan, we sit there and we imagine, okay, who would our loved one be? Who would we want to get a letter from and all this stuff. And then you imagine like, oh my gosh, for me, it's like my dad is so athletic. Like he would do great at the challenge when I would be doing terribly. Like maybe I'd have a chance with him. And like, it's just all part of that like Survivor dream that, you don't get.
Yeah, you know what I hope they do actually? You remember they did this with loved ones a while back where the survivor was blindfolded and the loved one had to steer them. Go left, go right, go down, pick that up, bring it back. Like I hope they do that where the loved one like pretty much decides the fate of their their loved one playing the game. Like that would be awesome. Because then
be solid.
because then you'll get that one that'll admit to the loved one like if I don't win, I'm dead.
Yeah, you want tension. That'll cause some tension for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I don't know. So that'll be a really fun challenge to see next week. Honestly, I thought the challenges this week were also pretty cool. Like I really liked the they had like their own Survivor wheelbarrow unicycle thing that they were transporting blocks on.
I don't know what that was, but it was cool.
I don't know, but I feel like we all need it in our life to inconveniently transport one wobbly object at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
I especially love the boat one where Lauren was using her boobs to like push.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like boob power.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. It was great. No, that one was so fun. That one was one that I was like, I would love to do that challenge. It would be so much fun from beginning to. I mean, maybe not because those blocks did look really heavy.
Yeah.
But I took it.
Oh yeah, and then they kept Ryan down. That was great.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, leaving Ryan to like try and just get some by himself. Like,
right.
You have so much time to strategize before the challenge starts, and like that's who hops off the boat first is Ryan.
That was awesome. That was awesome. If I didn't know any better, I would have been like, yeah, if you're trying to throw a challenge, that's the guy you send.
Right? Oh my gosh. That's exactly
You got
right.
this, Ryan. They don't look that heavy to me. You got this.
Well, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I guess everyone has to jump off once and get like blocks. And then I was like, nope, Ben's just continuing to do it like a normal large person should. So, but
great.
The puzzles were cool. I loved the board sliding around puzzle, and then we had the letter puzzle, which Billy, I'm with you. Is invulnerable a word? Because honestly, I have never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a word.
It is.
Invulnerable.
The improper form would be unvulnerable, which I was kind of figuring somebody would probably try. But the correct thing would be
because they didn't have enough
invulnerable.
use. Because that's how spelling
is the opposite of vulnerable. So
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the word vulnerable. They
Yeah.
say it on The Bachelor all the time. However, invulnerable, it was like an odd.
Here's what I think happened. I have no proof of this, but this is my theory. This is my conspiracy theory. I think the challenge makers were like writing the words on little puzzle pieces, and then they were like, "There's no V in immunity. Fuck. What do we make with a V? Invulnerable."
Yeah.
That's my theory. I'm gonna stick with it.
I can see it.
You roll with it. You have better insight than any of us into how Survivor producer minds work and how game makers' minds work. But I don't know. That's one like I loved those like word games as a kid / adult / now, where you scramble all the letters and see how many words you can come up with like with that set of letters. And I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it, but I just don't think there's any way invulnerable would have happened in my life. I would have been stuck on like believe or something because it has most of the same letters and just not ever done it. I don't know. It seemed like Christy got it really quickly, but I don't know if maybe that was editing.
Right. They could have all stood there for a really long time for all we know.
Right.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And but remember, like she's probably the brainiest of the whole bunch because of what she does for a living.
Very true.
So yeah, it makes sense that she won that particular challenge. But yeah, like if I saw everybody set it up vertically, so I wonder, like, is that what you have to do? Like, is that a rule? Because if it were me, I'd have set it up on the floor and just
set it up on the floor first.
Move letters around like more easily. But I guess that was a rule that we didn't hear.
I was wondering that too, but then I realized the letters were on like the side of the wheel. So you would have to balance each one like upright, and then when you move it around, like place it back to where it's going upright. Because as soon as it turns sideways, you just see like the wooden hole on the top.
Right.
So I thought maybe it was just that like the integrity of it wasn't that easy, and so it was just easier to see it all.
Oh, in front of you as opposed to yeah.
I don't know. But I did wonder that as well, because I was like, why would you waste all your time? And then I realized maybe you would just waste more time balancing wooden things on the floor.
I feel like it'd probably be more difficult for them to film you working on it from the floor too, so they want like the visual image of everybody doing it.
Everyone looking up and like pondering and like looking at each other instead of just the ground. That makes sense. I think the only way we'll ever know is when we all go on the show and compete in that exact challenge, and then we'll come back and be like, guys, listen, this is what's going down. So Billy, when they #bring you back, you gotta give us the dirty details.
And then I'll totally lose the challenge because I'll be spelling my words with a Spanish accent instead of invulnerable. It'll be invulnerable.
He'll be like, where is the tilde? There is no acento.
Yeah. I'll be like, I need an enye. Does somebody have an enye? For those that don't know what that is, the N with the little squiggly line on the top.
Yeah, cool. Yes. You're Dominican.
You get some double R's in there all of a sudden.
Yeah, people are like, why?
Somebody can't say the word because they can't roll their R's properly. Like, I could just see the whole, oh, God. I can see that.
Hey, you know, there was a Spanish-speaking, a Latin American version of Survivor called Desafío. And you gotta find this online somewhere.
Really?
It's so hardcore. Like, they had barbed wire in their challenge where, like, you would have to crawl under and stuff like that. It was hardcore. Yeah, and then they totally ripped off my season. And, you know, they had South American versus Central Americans versus Mexicans as the 3 tribes. And then they also ripped off Fiji, where when you won the reward, you got to go on the haves beach, and then you had like the middle beach and then the have-not beach. So it was really good. It's called Desafío La Gran Batalla. It is really good. Yeah.
I just found it on Wiki. So.
Yeah.
120 days. Wow.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
It was sick, but it was good. And it was this one chick that wouldn't stop cursing. She cursed up such a storm. Like all her confessionals were just mostly bleeps. just catch little words. But it was great. She had a nickname for everybody, like an insulting nickname.
Right.
Oh, of course.
This guy's name was Tino, so she called him Tino Saudio, which is like dinosaur.
Good, I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like that
it was great.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be hard if you made up nicknames for people to like not let them slip in front of them in the game. Then you'd be like,
oh, she didn't care. She was so hardcore, she didn't care.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That is great.
Yeah, so gotta find it online, and I don't know how it could be translated with subtitles or whatever. I'm sure there's a software somewhere.
I don't know. Yeah, that would be pretty sick. Just in case we haven't had enough like of Survivor tonight with our 2 episodes back to back.
Yeah.
Now have a new Spanish Survivor to see now. But yeah, I don't know. I think I had my fill of Survivor. I'm very pleasantly satisfied with this week. I'm excited for next week and can't wait to watch it and discuss it right back here a week from tonight. So with that, everyone, have a lovely rest of your day /night/morning/ whenever you're listening to us.